Hey, this is Ryan of Happy Healthy Vegan. So it's quite amazing how the universe works. Two people that I've covered frequently for their anti-vegan nonsense are Joe Rogan and Neil deGrasse Tyson. And as the universe has it, they both came together on an episode of Joe's podcast where Neil got to further demonstrate that he knows absolutely nothing about what veganism is as he tries to diss vegans for being speciesists and hypocrites. And let's go and take a look at this. This is one of the worst anti-vegans I've ever seen. Seriously, he's so educated, intelligent. I used to be a Neil deGrasse Tyson fan. I like his work in Cosmos. I think he's a good astrophysicist and science educator, but he's a crap philosopher. And I'll show you, he doesn't know the first thing about what he's talking about when it comes to veganism.
I spent a whole section in this book talking about people who love animals and want to care for them and don't want to eat them. But they only love ones that are cuddly. You make a plush toy out of it.
And you might be wondering, why is Neil even talking about this stuff? Shouldn't he be talking about something more scientific and something about the cosmos? And it's because he has a new book. That's why he's doing all these rounds on TV and Joe Rogan. He has a new book in which there's a chapter entitled Meatitarians and Vegetarians. So when he's talking about these people who love animals, he's talking about us, vegans.
I've never seen anyone say, save the leeches.
No one cares about bugs.
Save the ticks. In particular, parasites. Save the mosquitoes.
So already a bunch of red flags are going off for me. How he wonders why people who love animals, us vegans and vegetarians, aren't doing campaigns to save the ticks or leeches or mosquitoes or what have you. It's extremely obvious that Neil did zero research in his book here as to what veganism is. He could have just spent a couple seconds looking up a definition of veganism, like say this one here from the Vegan Society. The definition goes back to the 1940s. It's about not exploiting animals, a way of living and philosophy which seeks to exclude as far as possible and practical all forms of cruelty and exploitation to animals. So if we just done a little bit of research like this, he would see, I don't see why vegans need to have a campaign to save the ticks, leeches, and mosquitoes. Yeah, that's not what veganism is, unless those animals are being exploited.
No one cares about bugs.
Well, yeah, whatever. Yeah, basically Neil and Joe both think that us animal-loving vegans are hypocrites because we love some furry, cuddly animals, but we don't care about insects. And that's complete nonsense. That's why vegans don't consume honey, because honeybees are exploited to produce honey. And that's why there's products like this, not sponsored, vegan unhoney, so you can have honey flavors without any animal exploitation involved. That's why vegans don't like to wear products like, say, silk or insects. Moths are exploited to produce silk. And that's why so many vegans are cautious when it comes to red food dyes, because most people are blissfully unaware that an insect is exploited, crushed to produce the red coloring that you see in food dyes and cosmetics. Scientists are developing an alternative to this bug-crushing produced red food dye to produce red coloring for food, cosmetics, and other purposes for the market that exists for people who want red coloring without animal cruelty for ethical reasons or even allergic reactions. So this is complete nonsense that vegans are hypocrites. We don't care about little things like insects. Yes, we do. Again, let's look at the definition of veganism. Notice the word here, all forms of cruelty and exploitation of animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose. So please, Neil, do a little research before you come out and make these just completely insanely asinine remarks about what vegans are concerned about, because it's obvious you have no idea.
And so here we have mosquitoes, ticks, tapeworms, go down the list. And you can ask, if you're really into animals and don't want to kill them, if you heard that ticks were endangered, would you start a movement to protect ticks?
Again, look at the definition, Neil. Veganism has nothing to do with endangered animals or protecting endangered animals.
Would you do that? And if you would, more power to you. But I'm thinking you're not.
I mean, this is completely ridiculous. No, vegans are concerned with animals that are being exploited. Let's look at chickens. Chickens are nowhere near being on the endangered species list. In fact, over 70 billion chickens are slaughtered annually across the world. So that's why vegans are concerned with chickens, not because they're endangered. That's for like environmentalists or ecologists. Do you understand the difference, Neil, between endangered and exploited? Vegans are concerned with the exploitation of animals. We're against cruelty and exploitation engage in animals. Please, Neil, let me know you understand the difference between those two concepts.
Why would you if you know about Lyme disease?
This is my point.
Yeah, or
This is my point. I mean, by the way, the Lyme virus wants to live too, right?
Right.
These are all creatures on God's green earth.
I mean, this is just completely absurd now, Neil. I mean, really, viruses, so that's our job as vegans now. We should be fighting for the rights of all viruses to live. I mean, again, you have no concept of what veganism is. Let's look at the definition one more time. I don't see anything here about like us renouncing the killing of all living beings, no matter how tiny or large. You know what does say that, though? Jainism. You're talking about Jainists here, the concept of ahimsa, which is exactly that, renouncing the killing of all living beings, no matter how tiny or large. So you should have named your chapter Jainists versus meat eaters or something like that, because you are not describing veganism in any definition that's ever been conjured up in anyone's mind other than your own fantasy here.
Right? And so you end up being a species bigot.
Are you serious? Vegans are species bigots. Are you kidding? No, vegans believe it's wrong to exploit and harm animals, and we live a lifestyle that's in accordance with those beliefs by not consuming animal products, by not wearing animal products, not participating in these practices that we are against. If anyone's a speciesist, it's Neil deGrasse Tyson, who as a human being thinks he has the right to consume animals on a daily basis. Animals are just objects to be exploited needlessly so we can eat them. And again, needless because it's absolutely unnecessary to consume animal products. Don't believe me? Take the word of all these various health organizations around the world who have reviewed the scientific research and concluded that appropriately planned vegan diets are nutritionally adequate for all people. I just want to point out the irony that I'm the philosopher here. I'm the one that's trained in philosophy. I'm the one here providing science to support my opinions, my statements, while Neil is just making crap up, as in he's supposedly the scientist.
That's in the chapter Meatarians and Vegetarians. There's the philosophies that each of those camps will embrace. And the question is, how thoroughly thought through are those philosophies?
Well, considering I've been making response videos as a philosopher about veganism for about 8+ years now, I think my thoughts are very well thought out, as opposed to your just complete nonsense here. I mean, you don't even know what veganism is, and you're accusing people like me of not having well thought out philosophies. Again, I don't want to get on some kind of like trip here like who's smarter or anything, but you suck, Neil, as a philosopher. You're a good scientist, but your philosophy is crap. I mean, I don't think you could get a passing grade in a philosophy 101 or critical thinking class based upon what I'm seeing from you here.
Like in one example, let's say you don't want to kill animals, but you have a humane mousetrap in your basement.
Oh dear, not this ridiculous humane mousetrap argument that you brought up on Stephen Colbert, which I responded to a few months back. I assume it must be in your book. Let's see where he's going with this.
You like animals, right? So you save the mouse. You got to check on it every few days because they dry out quickly if you trap it. So what do you do when you catch it? What do they do?
Release
it back into the wild, guaranteeing the mouse gets eaten whole by an owl or pecked apart by all manner of woodland predators between 9 and 18 months of its life.
Well, first of all, most of us don't live in a woodland environment where an owl or woodland critter is going to come and swoop down and eat the mouse instantly. I've released mice here on occasion in an urban environment, and I didn't see any owls swoop in immediately. So there's no guarantee. That was his word there. Do you notice he said guarantee? No, there's no guarantee that this is going to happen. Secondly, it's just releasing an animal back into nature. Veganism, again, let's look at the definition. It's against all forms of cruelty and exploitation animals. So it's not to say vegans can save every last animal, that we can control what happens in an ecosystem, and that's what's happening when you release an animal. Release it into an ecosystem. There's no cruelty or exploitation. This example to try to debunk veganism is stupid.
So the safest thing to do with your mouse is to leave it in your basement. If you really care about animal life, and the mouse managed to get into your basement, leave it there. It'll live up to 6 years in your basement.
So I understand it, Neil. So you're saying your bizarre, extreme Janus definition of veganism, from that it follows that vegans, if they find mice in their home, should encourage the mice to live longer by keeping them in the basement. Maybe we should provide some food for them. So according to your logic, Neil, veganism commits you to a life of living with rodent infestation in your home. Yeah, that makes zero sense.
So people kind of cherry pick.
Yeah.
And I understand it, but
It's odd.
I don't mind if someone cherry picks as long as they're completely self-aware.
No, it's not cherry picking. Again, it's your failure to understand what veganism means that leads you to believe that if a person like myself releases a mouse out onto the urban street, that we're somehow being inconsistent in our beliefs. No, again, it's you not understanding that veganism is a philosophy that's against animal cruelty and exploitation.
And by the way, the home where you're saving the mouse, I did a rough calculation. It's probably made from the wood of about 50 trees.
Let me just stop Neil here. It just shows you if you have an absurd, non-real world definition of a concept, like in this case veganism, it just leads to absurd conclusions. Now he's going to argue that vegans are hypocrites for living in houses that are made out of wood. Yes, he's going to argue that.
Each tree could have lived 100 years, but didn't because it was cut down to make your home. The the 2x4 the 2x4s, the floorboards, the wall panels, the siding. Each of those trees was home to birds and insects and fungus and squirrels and...
Yeah, Neil, you got me. I'm going to quit veganism now. Yes, I understand. Yeah, if I'm against animal cruelty and exploitation for food, clothing, or any other purpose, I shouldn't live in a house made of trees because squirrels lived in the tree in the past. Yeah, I'm done, guys. I'm just going to pack it up and find a new thing. Maybe I'll do like reviews of guitars and stuff now. Just kidding.
And every day of that tree's life, via photosynthesis, it created 15 times the mass of the mouse in breathable oxygen. So I ask you, who do you think nature cares more about?
All right, this is completely absurd that a philosopher needs to say this to a scientist, but nature doesn't care about anything. Nature is not sentient.
The tree or your 1-ounce mouse?
Probably the tree.
I'm thinking. And some trees live 1,000 years.
Well, have you paid attention to some of the new research that's being done about how trees communicate with each other?
I'll get to that. Yeah, I'll get to that. That's in that chapter, the Meatarians and Vegetarians chapter.
So now I'm really curious to check out Neil's book to see if he goes down this road that Joe's bringing up here. You know, Joe is a big proponent of plants have feelings. They know when they're being eaten. They scream. Is Neil believing this too?
So trees are fascinating. I've heard people say, well, the mouse has a beating heart and the tree does not, or plants do not, and animals do.
Neil is just making more crap up. I mean, I've been a vegan activist since 2013. I've read, seen, and heard tons of vegan activists. I've never heard one ever make an argument for the distinction between plants and animals is the lack of a beating heart in plants. The primary distinction between plants and animals is sentience. All animals have brains, central nervous systems. We're capable of experiencing fear, pleasure, pain. We know if we're going to be killed. We don't want to be killed. Plants are lacking the hardware to experience those sorts of emotions. It's not a beating heart. You're just constructing a complete straw man argument here. No one goes around saying plants don't have beating hearts. That's why they're different from animals.
And I said to well, let me think this through. If you cloak a tree, does it not suffocate? If you cut a tree, does it not bleed? If you cut off its nutrients at the base, does it not wither and die?
Has Neil been taking acting classes? He's trying to be all dramatic in this announcement. Yes, we are aware, Neil, that plants are alive. Yes, plants are living things. Vegans don't eat rocks or plastic. We eat living things that happen to not have sentience.
The tree gets nutrients from the soil to the topmost leaf. It does it not for want of a beating heart. It does it in spite of not having one. So to fault a tree or plant life for not having a beating heart, when it's not that they need one and don't have one, it's that they don't need one and never wanted one.
Again, I've yet to encounter any vegan or even a non-vegan criticize plants for not having beating hearts. I mean, please, someone, if you have seen something like this, please link to it or let me know down below, because I just think he's making crap up. And again, he's shown no studies of any kind to support any of the claims he's made. He's just sat down in an armchair making nonsense up and then thinking it's so deep and profound. I mean, how into himself is he? I mean, he just seems so pompous and narcissistic and thinking that he's speaking down to us from this high position. Like, I don't think the meat eaters and vegetarians and vegans have thought this through as deeply as I have. Like, how much time did you really put into thinking this through? Because your arguments suck. Your operational definitions, like say for veganism, are completely fabricated in your own fantasies. I invite you, Neil, to come on my humble Friday night live streams here on YouTube, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I would love to have a friendly conversation. Maybe I seem a little aggressive now. It's only because I'm annoyed by this complete nonsense. You just took my whole worldview of veganism and flipped it upside down, not in a valid scientific or philosophical way, but just with complete lies and made up nonsense. I think we could have a productive conversation and discuss veganism and tell you what it's really about. And I think we have a great conversation. I've read Cosmos, Carl Sagan, your mentor. I've watched your Cosmos series, so I'm down, Neil. So contact me. Let's hook up. Anyway, guys, comment down below, hit like, subscribe to our channel, join our channel, become a channel member. And until remember next time, doesn't suck being vegan.